Welcome, everyone, to this episode of TLG Talks. I'm Gene Trowbridge. I'm the founding partner of Trowbridge Law Group. And this is our series of conversations with people who are in the real estate industry, maybe the syndication industry. And I'm finding it very interesting as I get to talk to these people that I've been doing business with for years, and I continue to learn more about them. And I'm very happy today to have one of my best and closest friends in the industry. Soozi Jones Walker is going to be here. Good morning, Soozi.
And good morning to you, team. Good to see you.
It's nice to see you. Soozi's in Las Vegas today. Soozi spends her time sharing between Las Vegas and with her husband in Florida. Soozi's business, Commercial Executives of Vegas, is being run by Soozi and her daughter, Bobby, who's a partner now, I understand. Or maybe been a partner for years. You know, that's great.
As soon as she learned how to sign my name, she became a partner.
So as soon as, or if you're interested in going to see, a biography and what Soozi does, just go to their website, cevegas.com, and that'll give you all the information. You're going to be interested in this interview because Soozi's a little different in the world of my interviews than some of the other people, and we'll get to that. So Soozi, I've known you for years. How long have you been a CCIM teacher, Soozi?
I've been a CCIM instructor for 18 years now.
18 years. And you are a CCIM and an SIOR. Were you one of the first ladies to be duly endowed with CCIM and SIOR designations?
I'm really early into that process, and in Nevada, I was the first. I'm
great?
also the only female to have been president of an SIOR chapter in Nevada.
Isn't
kind of a boys' club.
Is the boy? I'm sure it is. Yeah, I've seen them, some with socks and some without socks. Have we?
Right, industrial or office.
We have discussed. Well, Soozi, tell us a little bit how you got in the real estate business.
You know, it's funny, Gene. I'm like so many people. My first experience into real estate, I bought my first home. I felt like I was not treated maybe exactly the way I should have been. And I decided, I can do that and I can do it better. So when I had my kids here in Las Vegas in 1979, I decided that I would go into real estate because of the flexibility that it created. And the flexibility was they came to the office day and night with me. Because obviously when you're committed to real estate, it's a lifestyle more than just a job.
Isn't that something? So that's great. So you graduated from doing that into selling commercial properties. Why did you move from houses to commercial?
Well, I was working 80 hours a week. And so never had a hot meal. People were calling my home. No holidays, anything to myself. I was working all the time. And so I had heard that commercial agents only work bankers' hours. So I decided that's for me. So I went to the CCIM program to learn everything I needed to know to be a good commercial broker, and switched over at that time in 1986. And I don't work Sunday. I do work on weekends because I do a lot of leasing. So I do a lot of paperwork. But I don't see clients, and usually by 5:30, 6 o'clock, I'm done working.
That's funny. When I moved from selling houses to commercial real estate, one of my issues was I didn't think I needed as many people skills in commercial as I did in selling houses. And I was kind of devoid of enough people skills in selling houses. But I found that you need just as many people skills in selling commercial as you do in houses, right?
Oh, but you do. But the wonderful thing about the commercial side of the business is that you're working with business people. And so those business people are used to working business hours. Mm-hmm. And so they need to work with their other commercial halves during their business hours so that they can drive their residential client or realtors crazy after hours.
Yeah,
So it's a great trade-off.
that's the truth. So, what is your strategy? You know, the business world goes through cycles. The real estate business goes through cycles. What are you planning on your strategy for the next 2 or 3 years in the business, Soozi?
You know, I've been through 5 recessions that were pretty dramatic ones. 3 of them saying it was the worst since the Depression, and it just seemed to get worse, and then they get better. And this being my 6th cycle, this is the only one I've seen where all of a sudden one day, governmentally, they turned off the faucet.
Mm-hmm.
And the interesting thing is that many of the dilemmas that created those other recessions are not apparent in this one. This was a governmental intervention, and so with that, the banks are still solvent. Many of our clients are very solvent. And the tenants themselves that are in our clients' investment properties in their buildings are doing well. Because just because they can't work out of the office right now doesn't mean the companies are not functioning and working. And so with us, the first thing that we did in our first 4 months is we've reached out to all of our clients, whether they were tenants or landlords, and to give them advice, because everybody was confused. What do we do? You know, it's the Chicken Little thing. The sky was falling and nobody knew why. And so once we got everybody calmed down a little bit, we found that many of our clients are doing one of 2 things. They're either restructuring leases with their tenants on a short-term period so that they don't affect the net operating income for a long period of time, because as we know, net operating income is what creates the value of the property. The other thing that we're doing is counseling with those folks about, are you going to be getting a new loan soon? Or are you looking at selling the property? And if you are, now might be a really good time to do it. So over the next 2 years, I think that a lot of the clients that we've worked with where we're helping them with their tenants now, we're setting up that in the next 18 to 24 months, I think the investment market is going to be good. I don't believe that the value of the properties are going to, you know, die away. However, I do believe that interest rates will start ticking up. And once that happens, cap rates will go with it. So there's a possibility in the future there might be a little bit of a price adjustment, if you will. I don't think it's going to be dramatic, but our clients, we've kept them calm to get them positioned to be able to sell in the next couple of years.
Right. As you said, we've both been through these things in different arenas in our business. In the syndication area, I kind of think that our business is a little counter-cyclical to the availability of money. If you can borrow 105%, you don't need to pool investors. If you can only borrow 60%, and all of your investors have 10% down, you need 4 investors to go out and buy a property. So there's still plenty of money in the multifamily business, which is what most of the syndications are. I work on, there's, you know, Fannie and Freddie government money. There's all sorts of government money. So that's good. But the one thing I have seen since we started the new firm back in April is existing clients of mine with track records, and don't try what I'm going to talk about without a track record. Existing clients of mine with track records are coming and talking to me about doing some blind pools. Let's just raise some money, and then when there's blood in the streets, we'll go out and we'll buy something. And I've seen this happen, like you said, 5 or 6 times, and we're always concerned about what is the bottom of the market? Where is the bottom of the market? Is this as much blood as there's going to be, or is it going to get worse right after you buy something? So I'm telling them to hold their horses. I think a blind pool is an acquisition strategy, Soozi. You get a bunch of money, and then you can go out, you can compete with the 1031 buyers. You can compete with the all-cash buyers, because you really are. But I don't think it's because there's going to be great, at least we haven't seen it now, even in and I don't do much in the retail business, so I'm not really going to be able to comment on that, but certainly on multifamily, mobile home parks, self-storage,
right,
and industrial. I don't I don't see any blood in the streets. I just don't see that here. So,
And we haven't seen it in Nevada, and we certainly haven't seen it in Florida.
is the
So,
market in Florida better than the market in the Las Vegas area, Soozi?
do you know, it's almost exactly the same. The
Okay.
cap rates are about the same. The buildings are bigger in Florida. The state is bigger in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And so because of that, they have some different opportunities. They have a lot of international buyers, even more so than Nevada does.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because of availability of properties. But even the developers, be it the Panettones, the Prologis, it's the same developers that are building here that are building in California.
Yeah, that's interesting. So here's where I think we can spend some time. Soozi, you've never been a syndicator, and many brokers have either combined syndication with their listing and selling and leasing activities, or walked away from their brokerage activities to become a full-time syndicator, or dipped their toe in the water being a syndicator and it didn't feel very good and got out of that as soon as possible and went back just to being a broker. So tell us a little bit, and I think you're the only person I'm going to interview in this series of interviews who is not involved in the syndication business from ownership. I know you sell properties to syndicators because almost every big property has some sort of an LLC or corporation that owns it. So you're in the business, but you yourself have never wanted to take on partners. Can you talk to us a little bit about that decision?
Yeah, and it was a conscious decision that I made when I first got into the business. I mean, I've been doing this over 40 years. When I first got in the business, I decided that I wanted to be a listing agent. And computers were just being invented then. And so we didn't have the internet yet. So it was a really involved, constantly on the phone, constantly going out and checking on my clients, that type of thing. And so with that being said, it was very people intent. And I made the decision early on that to be a syndicator, you're working with people. And so you've got those same concerns coming from the people that have been investing with you in the real estate. And there were only so many hours a day. And in those days I was working 16 hours a day where I could hold hands for people. And I felt that holding the hands of my sellers and at the same time holding the hands of folks that were in my limited partnerships, is what we called them back in those days, didn't make sense. I had a conflict of interest because how did I get them the best pricing on properties that I was listing where I ethically, in those days in Nevada, was in a fiduciary situation with the clients that I listed the properties with. And nowadays, we're always talking about ethics and the duties that we owe to our clients. And I felt that it was a real conflict. So to control my own psyche, I decided that my sellers were cyclical. It might take a year to sell their properties. It might take 6 months, and we might do other properties. But at least those were done. If I was doing it as a partnership, I might own it for 5 to 8 years with these clients. And so if I had partners that I didn't particularly care for, or if they took more energy than I wanted to give them, and they deserve to have that energy, I just felt that I would be better investing in properties by myself.
I think that's true. In my book, first couple chapters in my book, I really try to convince people not to go in this business. If you can do what you need to do by yourself, don't take on partners. And one of the issues for brokers is that conflict. And I know I use examples of you having an office building that you've syndicated that, let's say, has a 10,000 square foot vacancy, and then you have a lease on a property that I own that has a 10,000 square foot vacancy, and in the door of your office walks someone who's looking for 10,000 square feet. You are bound up in conflicts. You've got to have good policy, good procedures. Everyone says, oh, disclose. Well, when do you disclose?
Right.
You disclose when you take the listing from me that you may very well be competing with me, and you never know. And I'm not sure that that's good for me. Why would I want to give you the listing then if you're going to compete? And I actually had a situation where I was walking in to get a listing on someone's property, Soozi, and the person said, Gene, I know that you syndicate properties just like mine. Why don't we just cut through all this and get rid of the commission discussion? And what would you like to offer for my property? And I said,
wait a minute.
and I wasn't the broker. So I'm sure the broker was thrilled with that, but I wasn't there to buy. I was there to get a listing, and I started learning about those conflicts. So I talk about that all the time. So I do know brokers who do both. And I know brokers like myself who walked away from the brokerage business because I thought, well, first of all, I thought I'd be better at being a syndicator than I was at a broker. Okay. And then I know people who tried the brokerage business and the syndication business and went back to brokerage. I do know that long-term, one of my truisms is the care and maintenance of partners will wear you out.
Yes, it will. It will.
Combine whatever happens in a piece of real estate over a 6 or 7 year holding period with multiple tenants, and combine that with 30 investors. I'm telling you that there's a bigger chance that one of the investors is going to have a crisis, and they're going to come to you, Soozi, because you have their money, and now they want you to solve their crisis.
And in crisis, people get into such stress that they don't hear some of the things that are said to them. They don't understand some of the things that are said to them. And all they say is, I want my money, I want my money. And, even if you're in a situation where as the managing member, you can make decisions, you really need to reach out and let those people have their input into it. Because as we all know, there's only one reason we have contracts. Contracts are there not for every day. They're just in case you have to go to court.
Sure.
And so, you get into these investment scenarios, which is what crowdfunding and syndication is. And not everyone knows each other well. Not everyone understands the documents well. It's like having multiple spouses and multiple kids, right? And, I chose to just have the ones I was married to and gave birth to. Okay. And with that being said, for me personally, I decided very early on, actually before I got into real estate in 79, I had already started buying real estate in California. And I bought what I could afford, which was small in those days. And I've always seen having partners as a necessary evil, not necessarily what I wanted to do. And I think if you know what you're good at, then that's what you do. And I'm really good at real estate. I'm really good at making decisions, but I'm not really good at communicating my decisions to someone else and asking their opinions. So for me, owning that real estate and needing to account to anyone else gave me more freedom. But, I know, just like yourself, I know many, many syndicators that are phenomenal at it. They have monthly newsletters that go to their people, and their people love them. And which is, they're doing exactly what they're good at, right?
No, I think that's true. And another thing you just touched on is I find a lot of people go into the syndication business because they don't have enough money themselves to buy all the real estate they want. So in order to accomplish that, they reach out to other people and pool resources. And your strategy, as it sounds, was with the money you have, buy the real estate you can buy by yourself and don't get into that game. I mean, that's how I got into it after 3 or 4 houses in Minnesota. I wanted 10 houses, but I wanted them all stacked on top of each other. And I couldn't buy an apartment building on my own. So I found some investors and away we go. And in my first investment deal, 4 years into what would have been a longer holding period, one of my clients had a health issue and we just simply had to sell the property to get him out of it. And I learned right then that much of my business was going to be dealing with people rather than the properties. And I you know, Soozi, I have a lot of clients all over the country, and they rarely syndicate things in their backyard. So someone else is doing the property management, but they're
Right.
doing the people management all the time. So
Well, and it is about people management.
Sure.
Everything we do is about people management. And going back to the crisis that you talked about, most people don't have a crisis when the market's good.
Right.
The crisis seems to follow with the other dilemmas that are happening. And
Right.
so many times, you know, that fallback of having to sell the property, well, it's a terrible scenario getting caught in that buy high, sell low situation versus
Sure.
the reverse.
So Soozi, the last question I'd have for you specifically, if you were talking to someone who was thinking about coming into the commercial real estate business, not the syndication business, the commercial real estate business, and was really a rookie, what piece of advice would you give them? What do you think the most important advice would be?
I think the most important advice is, and we see it a lot with people that are flipping over from residential to commercial. First thing is, you have to work a lot of hours. It's not a 40-hour-a-week business because you need to know your inventory. You need to know the business. And so if you're not physically in the office working or door knocking next door or on the phone calling, you're literally going to be reading periodicals. You're going to be investigating new listings so that you truly become an expert at what you do. The next thing is be willing to make mistakes. You don't have to be the end all for your clients. It's okay with clients if you tell them, I'm not sure about that. I'm going to have to get back to you. In fact, they appreciate that. But you have to be prepared to make mistakes. And the last thing that you have to be prepared for is to be humble. Because commercial real estate is not about you. It's about your clients. And it's not about you making money. You making money is the incidental of your clients doing well in their decisions in the real estate that they buy and sell. And so with that said, you never want to have your clients see dollar signs in your eyes because again, it's about them. And if they know that you're that sincere, and Gene, we laugh all the time about, you know, hey, we got out of real estate so that we don't have to be nice to anybody anymore. It's all about people.
Sure, that's the truth. And we've all had our moments of being humbled. There's in this business, no matter what, we've all had our moments. That's very, very, very true. And I think we probably need to pitch education. Why don't we pitch? I think they should take a CCIM course. I think they should go for, if they're going to do industrial, they should look at the designations for the industrial brokers. If they're going to do property management, look at the certified property management program. There's all sorts of education out there given by organizations that may be associated with the NAR and have specialty educations. And that's where I learned. I came out of college with an accounting degree, and I didn't think it worked in selling houses. And so someone somewhere said, well, why didn't you take a CCIM course? And, you know, 40 years later, I was still teaching CCIM class. I was a variable old timer compared to you rookies. So there.
Well, especially compared to me.
Yeah, especially compared to you. So that's very good. Soozi, I want to thank you for taking your time. It's always great to see you, Soozi. I don't get to talk to you enough. And anyone out there who's interested in looking into the Vegas market, in the Las Vegas market, look at Soozi's website, CE Vegas, and talk to Soozi or her partner, Bobby. And thank you very much. And I'll probably see you at the virtual CCIM conference in November, right, Soozi?
And I will give you a virtual hug.
Okay, let's do that. Thanks
Thank you,
very
Gene.
much. I'm going to turn off the recording now.
And good luck to everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.